And at that point, you then show Christopher Austin still captured pictures from a video, correct? The surveillance video?
Yes.
You tell him you know how you guys arrived. You're referring to Baker and Austin at that point?
Yes.
You tell him that you know how you guys left, correct?
Yes.
And you show him a still surveillance capture photo of the Porsche that was stolen from Mr. Sementilli, correct?
Yes.
Leaving on the street, correct?
Correct.
And you tell Christopher Austin in front of the agent, it's the in-between that I want to hear from you about what happened in between.
I'm going to object. This is all hearing.
I'll hear it.
Correct?
Yes.
And then you stress again that it's important for him to be honest, correct?
Yes.
But you don't immediately leave the cell at that point. Christopher Austin asks you some questions, correct?
I believe so. I don't remember what they were.
Okay. Christopher Austin asks you, well, what do you need from me to get home to my girls? Do you remember that?
Yes.
And you told him, we'll sit down and we'll have a talk about that.
Correct.
You leave again, and you overhear the Perkins agent and Austin continuing to talk, correct?
Yeah, as soon as I return to the listening post, yes.
The undercover agent asks you, and the they got, did you ever meet that?
The undercover agent asked me that?
Asks Mr. Austin in the cell.
I don't remember.
Could you look at, would it refresh to look?
Yes.
106?
What line, ma'am?
8 through 10?
Okay. Can you repeat your question?
The undercover agent asks Christopher Austin, and the they got, did you ever meet that? He's asking Austin. And he says to the undercover agent, seen her, but I don't know her.
He said before that he's seen her, but then after said he did not know her. He acknowledged that he had seen her, but didn't know her.
And he tells the agent, I can't remember what she looked like. Like I said, my uncle was with a lot of women.
Yes.
And shortly thereafter, the undercover agent tells Austin that he's going to have to switch up his story. Is that right?
I don't remember that.
He tells the agent, what would it refresh to look at?
Yes.
Page 115, lines 22 to 24.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the lines, ma'am?
I'm sorry, I cited too early. 8 to 11, lines 8 to 11 on 115.
Okay. Can you repeat the question?
Yes. The agent told Austin, of course you're going to have to switch your story up a little bit. You got to get that right before they come talk to you, bro. Real. You
Yes.
told Austin that,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
And then minutes before you come back to the cell to take Austin and do any more stimulation, you also know that the agent told Austin that he had a job to do, and it's up to him if he's going to do his job, correct?
I don't remember that. Is that the same page?
Did he say to Austin, did Austin say to him, I should say, they're down here to do a job, page 116, lines 6 through 11?
Okay, can you repeat the question?
Yes. Did Austin say to the undercover agent, referring to you and your team, they're down here to do a job?
Yes.
And in fact, the agent responded to Austin by saying, well, you got a job too to do, and it's up to you if you're gonna do your job, bro. You got 2 jobs you can do. You can do the job that's gonna get you home, or do the job that's gonna get you gone. And Austin responds, it's still up to the DA, whoever the DA is. Is that correct?
Correct.
And then you go to the cell around 1:15 that afternoon, and you go to get Christopher Austin and take him to an interview room, correct?
That sounds correct.
Okay. And when you do that, detective, you don't make him put on the handcuffs at that time. Is there a reason for that?
We were in a secure facility, and the location of the interview room was not in a tremendous long distance, so we're in a secure jail environment.
Don't you normally handcuff murder suspects?
Not always.
Once Christopher Austin gets in the interview room with you and Detective Byers, you make clear to him, Detective Farell, you and your partner make clear to him that when it comes to the charging of people, that's a DA decision. Do you recall telling him that?
Yes.
And your partner tells Christopher Austin right at the start that you seem like a good guy and we give everybody the opportunity to be truthful. You recall that?
I do.
And you tell him that there's really not a lot we want to talk to you about, but we give everybody the opportunity to talk. That was said, correct?
Yes.
And after you tell him that the DA makes a determination on charges and filing and anything like that, you start to question him about his role in the murder, correct?
I believe we Mirandized him, and we gathered some basic information before we started to talk about his role in the murder.
You gathered biographical information from him, correct?
Correct.
And you then showed him a picture of Robert Baker, correct?
Yes.
And you asked him about his relationship with Baker, who he knew as Unc, correct?
Correct.
You also then start to talk about him start to talk to him about whether he knows Monica Sementilli, who you refer to as the lady, correct?
Yes.
Now, at this point, he's never said that he even knows Monica's name, correct?
Correct.
And you, as you said before, never said Monica's name when you did any stimulation, correct?
Correct.
And again, you talked to Austin about that it's the DA who decides whether there are going to be charges and what's going to be filed, correct?
Object,
It is.
You never at any time told Austin that it was going to be up to any judge, correct?
No.
You told him repeatedly that it was going to be up to the DA whether he was going to be charged and what he was going to be charged with, correct?
objection.
It is cumulative.
Detective, when you next showed a picture of Monica Sementilli to Christopher Austin and asked him how you know this lady, he clearly told you that I don't, correct?
Yes.
And you asked if he recognized Monica's face at all, and he said to you, not really, like, who is she, correct?
Yes.
And he tells you that he's seen her before, correct?
Yes.
And tells you about seeing her at the gym, correct?
Yes.
And that he went to go visit Baker, and she walked by and he saw them talking, correct?
Sounds correct, yes.
Okay. And you specifically asked Austin at that time whether Baker ever offered any information to Austin about her, meaning this lady, and whether Baker ever boasted or bragged to Austin anything like that.
Can I refresh my recollection with the interview, ma'am? That's a lot of
Sure,
information.
25 lines 21 to 23. And I'm sorry, this is just to make clear is the interview of Austin, which is, I believe, on your tab B, just to make sure you are clear.
Yes, I found it. Thank you.
Okay. And in fact, when you and your partner asked Austin about whether Baker had ever offered any information about this lady or boasted or bragged, anything like that, Austin makes clear that Baker said, yeah, I'm messing with this, this new chick, correct?
Yes.
And Austin told you that he had responded, that's dope, how is she? And Baker responded, oh, she's cool, but we'll see. I got another one on the side. That's just how he's always been. That's how Austin described anything that Baker said about this lady, correct?
Yes.
And then you go on in the next period, over a half hour, 45 minutes, to interrogate Austin. And in fact, Austin confesses to you that he participated in the killing of Fabio Sementilli with Robert Baker, and that Austin tells you he actually stabbed Fabio Sementilli in the neck, correct?
Yes.
And you also heard from Austin that he said that the initial plan was, we're gonna go and rough her dude up, referring to the lady, correct?
Object, cumulative.
Sustained.
You told the prosecutor on Friday that Mr. Austin had confessed, correct?
Yes,
And when he confessed, he didn't just say that he went to murder Fabio Sementilli. He told you at that time his intention was that he thought that they were just going to rough Fabio Sementilli up because Baker had told him that his girlfriend was in an abusive relationship, correct?
Objection, cumulative.
Sustained.
At no time during that first interview did Christopher Austin tell you that he had ever spoken to Monica Sementilli directly, other than when he went one time to her house, correct?
this is a long interview. I think that there was a reference to a visit to the house where he ate pizza and fell asleep on the couch, and there was an interaction there. And I'm not sure, there may have been an interaction at the gym during some racquetball or
Right,
something along those lines.
He first told you that he had gone to the gym to see Baker, and that Baker and this woman had been speaking after he got to the gym, correct?
Yes,
And he made no indication that this woman had ever spoken to him, Christopher Austin, about anything to do with planning a murder, correct?
correct.
After Austin confesses to you and your partner, Detective Byers, that he in fact stabbed Fabio Sementilli, the district attorney joins the conversation, correct?
He had asked to speak with the district attorney who was present in Washington, yes.
And you arranged for the deputy district attorney, Ms. Stiegel, to come into the room and participate in the interview, correct?
Yes,
And Austin immediately says to the DA that he wanted to talk to her because he understood that everything depends on her, correct?
I don't know if it was her in particular. Can I reference the interview?
Sure, page 83.
What line, ma'am?
Line 22, starting at 22 to 25.
Okay, can you repeat your question?
Am I right that Christopher Austin, when the deputy district attorney comes into the room, tells the deputy district attorney, I wanted to talk to you because I understand everything depends on you. You do have a job to do. Did he say that to the DA?
He did, But the DA also responded to him.
And she responded that I can't make you promises or deals either today, but I can at least, just so you know that, do you want to think about it?
Yes, there's quite a bit of advising of him that he has the right not to speak with her, that he can answer only certain questions. There's talk about if he wishes to have a lawyer that he can. I mean, there's all of that in between that conversation about her inability to do anything but listen to what he had to say that day.
Right. And that's when you then take him back to the cell and conduct yet another stimulation, correct?
I don't think there was any more stimulations. He was taken back to the cell, yes.
Okay. Turning to page 121, just so you can anticipate.
Is this in the interview, ma'am, or the...
This is in the Perkins.
Okay.
Now, at this point, nowhere has Christopher Austin ever said that he even knows Monica Sementilli's name, correct?
He knows who she is. He did not know. I think his explanation was he didn't know her.
But he never said her name, right?
I don't think so.
And you testified in response to the prosecutor's very clear question on Friday that at no time during the stimulations in the jail cell did you ever say Monica or Monica Sementilli to Christopher Austin, correct?
Not before the interview.
So when Ms. Silverman asked you if you'd ever said the name Monica or Monica Sementilli during the stimulations, you thought she was limiting that to the first stimulation?
Well, that's all I would consider is the two contacts at the jail cell before the interview was what I would consider stimulation. Anything after is just conversation that I'm having with Mr. Austin. And during the interview, certainly her name was brought up in the interview.
Who brought up her name in the interview?
I believe my partner and I did.
You did not. Did you bring it?
You're testifying.
Can you tell me where you brought it up in the interview of Christopher Austin, Monica Sementilli's name?
I don't know the exact page. This interview is 164 pages. My recollection is that her name was brought up in the interview.
If you find that, let me know. But isn't it a fact, Detective Farell, that Monica or Monica Sementilli her name had never been brought up until you conducted this next stimulation at the jail cell and said to Christopher Austin, I feel bad that Monica wrapped you up in this. Rob wrapped you up in this. Because that's kind of what it seems like to me. Did you say that to Christopher Austin?
Yes.
And then you repeated it again a few seconds later. You said to him again, I feel bad. Monica wrapped you up in this. Rob wrapped you up in this. You tell him that a second time, correct?
Yes.
And immediately after you leave, the Perkins agent says to Austin, who the f*** is Monica? Is that the... And Austin says, I think that's her name. Yeah. Does Austin say that?
Yes,
Does the Perkins agent say that?
yes.
It's the Perkins agent who says to Austin at that point, to me, it sounds like the is the one who planned this. Did the Perkins agent say
Your
that?
Honor, again, I object. If counsel's going to read from something.
Please.
The procedure is to provide the page and line to counsel.
Please go to the page and line.
Page 123. I'm sorry, starting at page 122, lines 1 through 3.
Are we talking about the Perkins counsel or the interview?
It's the Perkins. The Perkins agent detective says at that point, who the is Monica? Is that the? And Austin says, I think
Sorry,
that's
counsel,
her name.
That's not on page 122, as you directed. 122 is the detective and this is Austin.
No, in the Perkins interview.
I'm in the Perkins interview. I'm on page 122. Those lines don't fit.
Did the Perkins agent ever say?
Your Honor, I need to know what page and line.
You can compare the transcripts. You can compare your transcript with counsel.
Does it start?
Again,
Does your line start? He said something. Who the is Monica?
no.
Okay, I'm reading from a transcript. So.
You are.
And it says Perkins assistant, so I'm assuming it's the Perkins transcript.
Yeah, it's the one we provided you, but it's not on page 122.
Okay, that's
It's correct, Your Honor.
okay. It's correct. I don't know if the people's transcript is wrong, but I'm reading directly from the transcript.
Compare it.
Can you show me your transcript?
Sure.
May I proceed? I need to find it.
Wait a moment. He's got a second conversation.
Huh? So the Perkins undercover operative says to Christopher Austin, who the is Monica? Just after you said to him that Monica wrapped you up in this. Following that, the Perkins agent says to Austin, who the is Monica? Is that the? And Austin says, I think that's her name.
Can I look at the transcript as well? What page?
122, lines 1 through 3.
Okay. refresh my recollection.
That's what the Perkins agent said, and that's how Christopher Austin responded, correct?
After he asked him if he told the truth, and he said, yes, because of her involvement.
Where did the Perkins agent say that?
He said page 122. If you look on 121, line 23, it says, the Perkins agent said, so basically you told him the truth? And he says, actually because of that woman.
And then he asks, who the is Monica? And he says, I think that's her name.
Yes.
And it's also the case that the undercover agent told Christopher Austin, following that, they need you to get this, because just think, if she get off, she'll get that insurance money. You see what I'm saying? The Perkins agent said that to Christopher Austin, correct?
Yes.
Counsel, what page was that?
It's 128, lines 7 through 9. They need you to get this, because just think, if she get off, she'll get that insurance money. You see what I'm saying? But they already know that this done set this thing up. The Perkins agent tells you that the police know that the set this up, correct?
He didn't tell me, no.
He told Austin,
Yes.
and you overheard it.
Yes.
Did you go into the cell at any time and stop the Perkins agent from saying these things to Christopher Austin?
No.
Isn't it a fact, detective, that the Perkins agent repeatedly tells Austin that it's all up to him about what he tells the police and to testify against this? He repeatedly tells him that's how he's going to go home, correct?
I don't know if he repeatedly told him that. If you want me to look at the transcript from the Perkins and direct me to that, I would be happy to refresh my recollection. I don't have a recollection of him repeatedly telling him that.
Detective, he tells, the undercover agent tells Christopher Austin in that cell that you, Christopher Austin, were brung into this by that, and you're endued, and first one tell, first one out of jail. Did he say that?
What portion of the...
131, lines 20 to 23 of the Perkins interview.
Page 131, ma'am?
Yes, 131,
Lines...
lines 20 to 23.
Thank you. Okay, I'll refresh my recollection.
That's what
Can you repeat the question?
the Perkins agent told Christopher Austin at that time. But again, you were brung into this by the, and the dude, and again, first one to tell, first one out of jail.
Yes.
He's telling him that he was brought into this by the, correct?
That's what he said, yes.
He's not asking him if he was brought into it by the, correct?
I don't remember the tone. Obviously, the inflection of one's voice could change that between a statement and a question.
Isn't it a fact, Detective, that this agent tells Christopher Austin on page 128, just so that you can anticipate, they need you to get this, they already know that this done set this up.
What line, ma'am?
Line 7, starting at line 7.
Okay, and what was the question?
Isn't it true that the Perkins agent said to Christopher Austin, they need you to get this. They already know that this done set this up.
Yes.
And isn't it true, Detective, that Christopher Austin says at page 139, I'm gonna be honest, I've seen a lot of situations, if the offer benefits me and my girls, whether I lose them to this or this situation or not, but I get to go home to see my daughter and my wife, I'll give them whatever they think they need. Did Christopher Austin say that in front of the Perkins agent on October 2nd in the afternoon?
Yes. Yes.
And throughout Christopher Austin's conversations with you that day, he wasn't holding back, correct? He confessed to murdering Fabio Sementilli. Did he not?
Well, he did hold back on information that we've now learned since he's testified, but no, he did not hold back about his participation and role in the murder of Fabio Sementilli.
So he told you the detail about his killing Fabio Sementilli. The only part he left out was that somehow his new claim in the proffer that Monica Sementilli was somehow the mastermind of the whole thing, correct?
He did not mention that in our interview, no.
Detective, you spent many, many hours with Christopher Austin that day, either in interviews with him, with you and your partner, with the DA, and then doing these stimulations and overhearing what the undercover agent was telling him, correct?
Yes.
It lasted pretty much from 9:30 in the morning to after 4 that afternoon, correct?
Yes.
And not only did you tell Christopher Austin twice in your stimulations Monica Sementilli's name, but the district attorney, when she came back to re-interview Christopher Austin, she told Christopher Austin Monica's name, correct?
I don't remember.
Isn't it true that when you resumed the interview where DA Heather Stiegel and you and Detective Byers had met previously, you at some point got Christopher Austin out of the cell and brought him back to the interview room, correct?
Yes.
And at that point, Christopher Austin was questioned by DA Stiegel and you and Detective Byers, correct?
Yes.
And that second interview with DA Stiegel, Austin says repeatedly to you and DA Stiegel, "What can you do as a DA for me to see my girls?" Correct?
I'm gonna object.
Page
This is all
90.
cumulative.
Sustained.
He asked DA Stiegel directly, what can he do to see his girls, correct?
Same objection.
Sustained.
Detective, when DA Stiegel was in that room, she told Christopher Austin, when asking him about Ms. Sementilli, what do you think you first heard about, the racquetball lady or Monica?
I don't remember, ma'am.
Did you discuss Monica with Christopher Austin in that room?
Your question is confusing to me. I believe that she was discussed. in that
Page
room.
96 of your,
If the detective could finish his answer.
You may.
I believe Monica was discussed in the interview, yes.
and Deputy District Attorney Stiegel actually used Monica's name at page 97, line 2, correct?
Page 97. Okay. And what was the question then?
The DA told Christopher Austin Monica's name.
Yes.
You told Christopher Austin Monica's name.
I believe so, yes.
And in fact, the very first time that Christopher Austin ever said Monica's name was after you and the DA told Christopher Austin her name.
Okay. I don't have a recollection of him using her name before that. But I'm confused by your question,
Well,
I guess.
maybe I can clarify. The Deputy District Attorney, in her direct examination of you, Detective, seemed to emphasize in her questioning of you that at no time did you tell Christopher Austin Monica's name before he said Monica's
I'm
name.
gonna object. That's argument.
Sustained.
Detective, isn't it a fact that Christopher Austin at no time indicated when he was confessing to the murder of Fabio Sementilli that Monica Sementilli was involved in the planning or execution of Fabio's murder?
I believe he made reference to her contacting Baker to let them know the time that was opportune to go up to the house to murder him.
Isn't it the case, Detective, that what Christopher Austin told you, which you kept telling him you thought was the truth, was that Baker told him before they went up to kill Fabio that he was home alone and that he believed that Monica had told Baker this, but did not know that?
Correct.
And at each time he referred to Baker telling him that Fabio was alone or that there was money, or that there was anything related to the planning or carrying out of this murder. Christopher Austin, when he was interviewed by you, before he started making a deal, made very clear that all he knew is what he believed or assumed, that Monica had participated.
Well, it's information that he was witnessing and observed through Baker, who he believed to have been in contact with Monica.
Detective, Christopher Austin never at any time told you or anyone else in this case when he was in Vancouver, Washington, that he ever saw a text or heard a conversation or even heard a woman's voice, correct?
Correct.
And he assumed that that's where Baker got the information, correct?
Correct.
And there was nothing that you gleaned from that 12 hours or whatever it was, 8 hours of interrogation and use of the Perkins that gave you any evidence that Christopher Austin had any communications from Monica Sementilli, or that she had actually and intentionally planned the murder of her husband, correct?
That's compound.
Sustained.
Misstates the evidence against him.
Isn't it a fact, Detective, that when you left that station that day at whatever it was, 5 or 6 o'clock at night, all that Christopher Austin had indicated was that he assumed or believed that Monica Sementilli was involved in this?
Yes.
Nothing further, thank you.